Unstoppable Peruvians. I am a fan of my community. I'm always here for there. So I'm part of a cafeteria. Since we use NG, we were able to save to place this place in a better way. We have many designs in the cafeteria, but my flavor keeps the same. And with saving, we were able to purchase more products to improve everyone's feeding. Natural gas is an important ingredient to keep supporting our community. For Unstoppable Peruvians, Unstoppable Energy from Cálidda, 18 years generating quality of life for Lima and Callao. It's 6 millions of Peruvians that have saved more than 580 millions of dollars thanks to NG. Give quality to your life, give Cálidda. So good morning to everyone. My name is Manuela Ramirez. I am a manager of investors with the NG Group of Bogota. So this is the Cálida of the fourth semester of 2022. This conference is going to be made in Spanish with simultaneous translation and is being recorded. Reports reported yesterday can be checked in the website of Grupo Energía
La
Bogotá.
llamada de hoy será
Today's
liderada
call
por
is
Mario
going to be led
Caballero,
by Mario
director
Caballero,
financiero de Cálida,
director of
y por
Cálida,
parte de TGI
and
estarán Mónica
TGI. It's
Contreras,
going to be
presidente,
Monica Contreras, the president of TGI,
Beatriz
and
Arbeláez,
Beatriz
el
Arbeláez, the vice
vicepresidente
president of
de
of finance. So we will have the participation of other directors of the companies to answer your questions. So I'm going to give the floor to Mario, who is going to open the results from Cálida. Well, good morning to everyone. Warm greetings from Peru. Thank you very much for being here to check the results of the Q4 2022. I'd like to start telling that despite all of the political situation in Peru during 2022 and a series of changes and movements and some type of authorities, and at the end of the year with some events, difficult events in the southern part of the country, the results kept in the operative and financial very solid and an expansion. So as you will be able to see later, our EBITDA 2022 grew to digits and our net utility grew about 6 or 7%. But more than that, now in 2023, we are focused on a process of expansion that is very relevant for everyone and in line with the original plan that was approved with the government last year. And it goes to the year 2026. This year, we are projecting to invest more than $100 million. And as I said before, as a speed that is very important. So, it is that important to share that at the beginning of the year, the government, through the Ministry of Mines and Energy, contacts Calida to find out what we can do to improve the process of massification of NG, apart from other regular obligations and the regional ideas. So, difficult things and difficult situations and challenges close in March with the issuing of the resolution of the Ministry 072/2022, which is a public resolution, and all the persons could access that, through which the government is granting Calidad $35 million to execute works related to the massification of NG that go further than the commitment that Calida has offered to the government through the quinquennial plan. So the message that I would like to give at the beginning of this review is that despite the difficult situation, the political situation in the country, the massification of NG is a synonym of productivity for the country, as it is a synonym of savings for families, the same as an improvement for the environment to reduce CO2. And Calida is the leader of this process of expansion and achievement of this massification in Lima, Callao, and Peru. Therefore, more than the situation and the different authorities that passed not only in the past years but from 2010, which is a situation that is going to continue, is the growth of our organization. And if we can go to the next slide to check the important results of the Q4 2022. So, talking about the fourth trimester, I can say that the most relevant thing here is that our volume was an increase, had an increase. In here, we have basically the important, the growth of the vehicle grow, that 2,000 vehicles that were converted to NG. Our role as Cálidda is to develop this market, and we are focused on that. And for that, we assure that the amount of service stations can be seen and workshops on compression services will be online with the demand required. So, apart from that, we work with the government as an associate to teach the society about the what value of this natural gas as a conversion energy. So, additionally to that, we had demand on the fourth trimester, which is generation, and the period of rains was delayed, uh, and it is traditionally a period in which hydro have most important participation in the energy matrix, and there is an exceed of demand of thermal situations. About connections and networks, we have a situation in the last semester, an important event that basically allows us to duplicate the amount of networks and have an important result in connections. And the government through the inclusion, social inclusion fund, FICE, destined in the fourth semester, funds to to execute about 300 kilometers. That is an event that is not a current event. That clearly meant something extraordinary, and for that reason, compared to the fourth semester of 2022, it is low down. So, talking about the EBITDA on the fourth semester, there is a growth of 6.5. So, here we have two extraordinary events to consider. One in 2022, and then the other one in 21. And in the case of 22, we close portfolio of credits to beat. Then the transaction was 40 million that gave us a EBITDA of $10 million. And the fourth trimester of 2021, as I said, we had this process of construction of networks and with an increase with funds from the government that gave us a construction margin of $37 million. If we exclude both elements, our EBITDA would have grown 12%. If it is important to mention that the credit portfolio, it's a non-strategic portfolio, and so up to 2018, Cálidda Finance internal connections, and from that year through FICE subsidizes this activity. So Cálidda does not give this portfolio, and for that reason, it was basically a portfolio that was portfolio for collection. So there was an opportunity to monetize it and receive funds and use the same for other activities that are more strategic. And what is related to risk qualification, we maintain our in perspective in a stable way. So next one, talk about the consolidate in the year. It's important to understand that in the operation, we had an important growth in talking about the volume of 4%, and that is leverage on what the vehicle sector was mentioned. As I said before, we have a role for the development of this market. So about 60,000 vehicles were able to be converted, and also an important fact is that during the year, Calpa Las Flores, which is one of the stations that we have in the for the regeneration in Peru, and Lima and Callao particularly built the plant, or its plant, from a simple cycle to a combined cycle, by which there was an important demand on the site. So it is about connections. We closed the year with 6.2 million connections, and we overcome the challenge that we had in 2021. In 2021, we made 2,000 connections. That was an important number because it had the reboot impact, and this year we were able to overcome that one. So nowadays we are executing 2 connections per minute, which means that is the maximum of productivity in our history, and we continue doing that. We closed with at least 1,600 kilometers of networks during the year, and 16,000 kilometers of networks in the financial part. Our EBITDA closing to $125 million, growth of 2 digits, and we excluded the extraordinary ones that the growth would be the level of 12%. The cash flow, operational cash flow, is $191 million. That if we exclude the component of the sold of the portfolio, it would have been 10%. Our leverage in levels that are very healthy, under the level of 3.5, If we excluded this impact of transaction of the IDView, it would be 3.5, but always under what is the limit of 4 that we manage nowadays with all the risk qualifiers. And as I said before, we kept our investment degree without any changes in the perspectives. So, in the part of security and health, well, I can mention that in quality, we have our values, of course, life, which is included in all the organization, is embedded in the organization and all the workers in the organization, but it's focused to our contractors. And it's important to say that during 2021, we had 20 million man hours and works to get close to 18 accidents that there is a collaborator that was not able to work for 2 months. However, during 2022, we reached 19 million hours, man hours, and 12 accidents. That is an improvement to show. So, in the part of the environment, society, and governance, we improve our sustainability rating with ESG. There was a work in biodiversity and equity, and we ratified the certification against bravery. If we can go with the next one. Okay, if we can talk about performance, commercial performance, it's important to understand the growth of the volume from the fourth quarter from 2021 to 2022. And one of the levers that we are going to continue in the future is the development of the vehicle segment. You can see there that that is the percentage of what is GNB, passed from 8 to 9%, and it represents 10 million of increase every year. And it means that it is the result of what we can say from our side on and the others associates in the chain and the government to ensure that you can see funds and education focused on the market about the GNB benefits against other sources of energy. So another take or pay contracts that represent 70% of our volume and gave you make us feel calm and stability of flows to the future. These contracts mostly expire in 2023 when the concession ends. So on the right, we can see that it's important of the competitiveness of this fee independently from the segment. We can see which we have a 50 or 80% of competitiveness with the against the other substitute, which in the end allows us to live come together and allows us to have a virtual circle between competitiveness and volume keeps in there. Our role in the end is to ensure that the volume continue growing and develop during the market. It allows us to protect or improve the competitiveness of the fee or the tariff, and that would be allows us to improve a better demand. If we can go to the next one. Talking about what we can say about connections and redistribution, we were able to achieve an historical record of 260,000 connections. We closed the year with practically 1.6 million customers, and in the future we would be normalizing our amount of connections in the rank of 55,000, maybe 60,000 per trimester or per quarter. It is less to continue on working on kilometers and connectivity and the distribution system. 1,600 kilometers. The network is about 16,000 kilometers, closing 2022. And similarly, we would be expecting for the future to go to a rank of 300 kilometers every quarter. What you can see on the right on the map is basically, well, everything that is in blue. We can see zones that in Lima and Callao have NG. The red part is the focus area that we cover on 2022, which is in the northeastern part in the Caraballo, Puente Piedra, and the focus on 2023 is in the northeast. And we can see here in gray is that it nowadays represents socio-economical levels that are high. Something important to understand here is that the important part of the connections made and is are executed for the future had the priority with vulnerable sectors, sectors that are in the lower part of the pyramid and the socio-economical levels. And we finished and we completed to ensure the connections of all those sectors. We will continue in the pyramid um, to the high socioeconomical levels. Next one, please. Talking about the financial part, as we can see, the flows in EBITDA that are very stable in the rank of $55 million per trimester. We can understand here the stability of these flows. In the case of the fourth trimester, we can say the exceptional of the transaction of ADV, but it is important to understand here that our margin continues to be in the 60%. 5 years ago, this margin, this EBITDA margin was 50%. Now it is normalizing 60%. So the distributor continues with the expansion process and close the construction activity, what we hope for, and as this margin migrates to 70% levels. The same thing, and a cash flow that is very stable and predictable, with an additional of 40 millions per transaction of the IDB. And we exclude the MIPO, it would have been in the rank of $150 million. So, regarding debt, we closed the year with $792 million. What is relevant to show here is that we have an expiration of this year, $400 million. In fact, in April, we have 320 million from an international bonus, and we have 80 millions with the BVA loan, and we are going to close in December 2021, or we close in 2021 for to have the funds to cover the payment of the international fund, and this is indicated in 2021 in December, and rates that were competitive and that are going to allow us to, well, at the moment of converting international bond and this information to have an efficiency in the financial cost as a whole. And it's important to outstand the interest rates that we have today. Additionally, we have a loan that we closed in December 21 in Scotiabank, 200 million, that we had 100 million to be paid. So they're going to be used for capex and for the payment of the debt of 80 million with BBVA. So the improvement in leverage to 3.3 levels, and the ratio of interest coverage at a levels of 7, that is a very healthy number. So let's continue with the next one. And to close and give some guidance related to our expectations for this year, nowadays we are working on the base of 1,200 kilometers of new networks. We are working on a base of 200,000 connections as a baseline, and a EBITDA of 215 million, and a ratio of leverage with multiple of 3.8, which is collecting the transition of a debt that we have this year, plus a little bit of investment, and for the next year it will be falling down. So about that, Manuela, the floor is yours, and I will be able to answer any questions at the end of the session. So you can identify your name with your name and the company you're coming from. So with this, thank you very much, Cálidda, and I give the floor to Monica so we can continue with the presentation from TGI. Good morning, Monica.
Esa energía que te acompaña todos los días. La energía que mueve a todo un país. Que nos brinda un aire más limpio para respirar. Que impulsa a las empresas a ser más competitivas con sus productos y servicios sostenibles para todos. Que transforma vidas y lleva prosperidad colectiva a su alrededor. En TGI estamos comprometidos con esa energía. La energía de la transición, el gas natural, la energía para hoy, mañana y el futuro. TGI, mejoramos vidas con energía sostenible y competitiva.
Good morning to everyone. For TGI, it's important to present the closing results from the year 2022 with important results. I'm Monica Contreras. I'm the president of the TGI Group. Our results, as you will be able to see, reflect the commitment that we had in these 2 years and a half to be able to continue generating a lot of collective prosperity in markets in which we work for, particularly in the Colombian market. And as we mentioned it, when TGI is okay, all of the interest groups are okay as well. You can see there is a very important and good results in terms of financial development. If we compare 2022 with 2021, we are delivering a growth of 4% in income, about 8% in the operational utility, and EBITDA 5% and 13% in net utility. So with the last one, it's $113 million. With these important results, we didn't achieve not only that 180 million users to use the NG service transported by TGI, and we are offering the consolidation of GEP that offers dividends, as you can say, to the capital of a country, with which we benefit projects that are very relevant in a social and economic impact to improve the quality of life in Bogota. In the year 2021, we had an important management, but the good news is that we can say, as you can see in the graph, an important relevant part of to these improvements that the team TGI had in the development of 2021. We were in the first place, worldwide speaking, in storage and transportation of gas and oil. From the oil to we had the operation for our infrastructure, and we were placed in the ninth place among the company of energy and gas, energy, and water, and Campo Merca in the first place in corporate government that was given by the Pedro in Bogota to be part of the second publication of best practices. And recently, as we were able to see, and there was the past year, we received all an important work that is related to the management of 2022, which is basically the ranking part in which we were placed in the third place with among the companies that with the number of collaborators that were from 200 to 2000 to 1000 in the second place in the top 10 of companies that are considered as companies that are betting to all the topics related to diversity and inclusion. So, if we can continue with the next one. Why did we get to these results? Through these goals, me and the direction team have been coherent with that we focused on a strategy of transformation for the business. And the important thing here is that we can share how we improved on this transformation in all the pillars in which we define was going to be a critical route on what this transformation is going to be. In the first pillar that you can see on the screen is the expansion pillar, and in there we announced the test for the operability of interconnection of TGI and Promigas systems, and it was announced this week, closing all of this exercise. And this milestone was concluded from the year 2022, and actually it is going to allow us to make an announcement that approximately we are going to transport 7 million cubic feet from Cusiana, which is in the western part of Colombia, up to the northern coast of the country to Cartagena. So this is an important fact for the country, and actually it splits into the history of an infrastructure that in the past wasn't able to connect, but nowadays all Colombia is getting something earnings and security. And just the year we celebrated the first country of maintenance to offer services of provision to collectors, and this is a good service that we launched last year. And we also worked in future businesses in which we have mapped potential income for the year 2028 for about more than $200 million as of the result of infrastructure projects are in pre-feasibility part. So when we see efficiency, for us, it has been an important focus, understanding that the main source from which this business was related to was the source Ballena Barranca, and I can say today that this is a discipline that is very immersed discipline in culture, and year by year, it is bringing results that allows us to get to these profitability numbers that you can see there, but this capture of value. Um, for example, you can see that we were able to see $20 million in OPEX efficiency and everything that is related to CAPEX efficiency. In the pillar of transformation, we can say that we are improving in a synchronized way, not only in what means well, we have worked in a very strong way all related to digitalization phase to be more efficient in our operation and close this capacity and get close this capacity. And we worked a lot in this point, and we can create our path in renewable gas. And this is an important part because it means at the strategic bets to the future and outstand that there was an innovation, and we map nowadays for the business in potential income of about $11 million. So we can continue with the next one. Now I can say that there is a fourth pillar, but for us is relevant because due to an impact it has on the business, and it's a pillar related to regulation, related to from the first day we mentioned it that we wanted to have a regulation that was very proactive. It means proactive to future businesses that we have as an organization and to those that we are betting to, and that I mentioned it in the previous slide, but also it means current management. And I would like to acknowledge the effort of a team that, with an strategy in this regard, was able to reduce the impact on the financial statements projected on the regulation measurements. As you know, what in a moment was constituted the famous correct resolution 175 issued in November 2021. We also need the application due to administrative acts that are currently ongoing. So, however, with this resolution, the correct resolution, which is 702, that has certain amendments to senses that we looked for, recognition of coverage, and to the proper remuneration of assets that complied with the regulatory that will be continue operating, and these assets would not be capital zero cost that was stated in this resolution. Regarding these measurements, the company what did was to work as some actions, repurchase of what is the bond with own resources, and we were able to buy or to repurchase $188 million. And when these repurchases versus what we have in our budget, we were able to bring some savings for the business against this initial budget of $8.6 million that are going to be part of this 2023. Next slide, please. From the point of view, as you can see here, from the closure of 2022, we closed that year and we felt that the strategy was very important, that actually we are delivering and complying with the country, the business, and the stakeholder, our value promise to continue transforming lives with sustainable and competitive energy. But additional to that, to warrant that TGI and the gas business within the group of Energy of Bogotá is a sustainable and feasible business. With that, I will give the floor to Beatriz. Good morning to everyone. My name is Beatriz Arbeláez. I'm the Financial Vice President of TGI. Well, um, about the financial development that presented Monica, that has important results in terms of the growth of profitability. The first point that we have to talk about is the generation of income. As we can see, the growth that we observed in the income between the 2 years, 2021 to 2022, was $16 million, and it was an annual variation of 4.1%. Mm, that biggest generation of income took took place basically from the commercial activity generated from the greatest hiring or procurement that we can see on the left side, in which we can see that the hiring or the procurement capacity generated an increase of 24 cubic meters in the daily in the last trimester, but that activity, one way or the other, was kept during the year. So, as you can see on the right side, one way or the other, in the last quarter, we were able to see a reduction of an occasional reduction due to the turbines from Hidroituango Dam and additional maintenance program by Ecopetrol in Cusiana. It caused that was a low reduction that we can see on the last quarter, but in general, the growth of income is very important and great for all of us. So we can continue with the next slide. So that growth that is very important in income, it translated into uh, growth and operational profitability generated by the company that is linked to it the efficiency policy mentioned by Monica, in the sense that we can control the expense in a way the OPEX would not grow, and in general, the expense were controlled. It means they didn't present any increase. Therefore, we generated this operational profitability, and additional to that, it is complemented and it is reflected basically in the increase of income and the expense control, and the EBITDA that we generated was $315 million. It means an increase of 4.9%. And it represented, in turn, an increase of the general margin year by year of 50 points, 0.50%. So these results additionally were complemented with the activity that we generated to face the effect of the possible start of Resolution 175 that generated the repurchase of the $150 million issued with an expiration of 2028. That generated a profitability that is very important of $13.2 million, basically because we repurchased those bonds under the pair. It means $93.1 million. And additional to that, the financial income that we received increased basically because, as we all know, um, the interest rate in the market increased, and our liquidity improvement generated more profitability, and for that reason, the net income, as you can see on the right, mostly on the during the last trimester generated an increase of 77.3% because of these two phenomena that I mentioned it before, and generated in the end that we were able to reach a net profitability of $113 million, or an increase of 13%, which is a very important increase in profitability. And to complete our numbers in terms of financial numbers, this is the debt level that ended in the year in $975 million, mainly with a reduce with a reduction of $5.2 million related to the repurchase of the bond with the expiration of on the year 2028, as you can see. And in the other important component from our debt that corresponds to $370 million is the intercompany credit. That is important to mention that in the month of December, received an extension for another month that we expect to pay to the energy group in the month of December of this year. And this credit represents 38% of the total amount of debt of the company. And we have another, well, lower debt that is derived from the renting contracts that throughout the country are subscribed for all the operation. And the rate, as you can see, is a rate of, well, that is very important and very good because it has 5.39% in dollars. So, as a product of our repurchase, what we can see is basically that the leverage indicators on the left were reduced basically because of this repurchase. The gross debt and the EBITDA percentage and the net debt regarding the EBITDA, and of course it was reduced. So for that reason, we had a good behavior in the EBITDA related on the financial expenses. And here we give the floor to Laura Villa. So thank you very much. My name is Laura Villa, the Vice President of Government and Sustainable Development Affairs in TGI. I would like to show the important improvements for 2022. That was a great year from sustainability speaking. And we talk about sustainability under the criteria ESG, environment, social, and governance. And the environment, as Monica said at the beginning, of the carbon print and IE contact and the pillar from solutions based on nature, we were able to reach more than 5,000 individuals protecting flora and apiculture projects as a conservation project. In the social part, we started with the procession of training in women influence areas, and we are joining 30 entrepreneurships. And we include there, together with the society, this prosperity, collective prosperity that we defend. Additional to that, in the social criteria, we are working on the PET, on the feminine participation in the local. We were able to have a participation linked in inductions of the contractors and suppliers for their procurement processes, and the inclusion of HASQ and social the guidelines related to training and education. Then we came back to presential or face-to-face trainings, and we were able to start 7 journeys in our municipalities of influence. That is an activity that allows us to strengthen our relationship with the communities. We were able to reach a social investment in more than 2 million pesos, 2,000 million pesos, and we impacted 52 territorial units and more than 22,000 beneficiaries. In governance, we were able to develop in the past year, and we were able to build the manual of security and privacy of information. We work on the training of risk and information security issues and social and engineering and cybersecurity that we consider are very important. And apart from that, we included in our matrix risk climate change. And this is a result of our recommendation or recommendations from the TCFD report from the past year, and inclusion of the matrix risk that is clearly joined with controls from the thematic areas and governance areas and from the management strategy, and to be able to mitigate the risks as long as it is possible. We are very proud, as Monica said, that we started the year with important achievements in sustainability that recognize this job that we are telling you. TGI, as Monica said, in the year 2022, we were able to be in the first place in the storage and transportation of oil and gas, and Dow Jones is the second year that TGI is in the first places of this evaluation, and it ratifies our commitment with the sustainable management, sustainability as a transversal and strategic pillar of the company. And it is important to understand that we are the only Colombian company within the first places in the ranking. In this opportunity, we participated 69 companies at a worldwide level, and as I told you before, we obtained the first place. So, and the dimensions that were able to help us to improve in this ranking, it is social impact, talent retention, strategy, human policy, um, human rights policy, and safety and security at work. We can continue with the next slide. And we wanted to show you what is coming for the year 2023. So we achieved a lot in the year 2022, but we have a lot of goals, and the sustainability road is going to be focused on the business strategy, and it's going to be aligned with the factors ESG and the environmental criteria. Our bet is to continue working with the decarbonization route, to continue with the reduction goals that are aligned with the country goals. Some actions that we're going to take to this year to achieve this goal is we're going to achieve 100% of our emissions measurement, and we were able to measure last year 30%, and the goal is to have an important measurement of 100%. Nowadays we have 150% of infrastructure that is measured, that it is with a plan that we're going to show that we are reducing our emissions. We're talking about reduction of emissions and operational efficiency, and we will be able to build the decarbonization with Gaia, which is an important external consultant that is going to help us with the path with milestones every year, to with specific actions to reach the goals every year that are going to take us to reach the goals in the years to come. And our focus is to energetic efficiency. We will have the stations that are already certified. We will keep the certifications in there, and we will increase another branch that is going to be energetically efficient, and we will continue with the routes of gas, biogas, and hydrogen that helps us with this decarbonization route. We will continue with our commitment to restore a strategic ecosystem by deforestation, and we will have a strategy of that is going to be aligned with the Grupo Energía Bogotá and the affiliates in Colombia, and we will continue with the carbon profitability, continue with the, and to including to 12 other branches. In the social criteria, we will be focused on the pillar of human talent to continue working from management, culture, and commitment. And this year we will be able to achieve 100% of the processes proposed by the insurer. From social investment, we have an important bet to take part in an active way in rural gasification, so we will be able to connect the Colombians that do not have this access, and we will have an important part in our social investment focused in these topics. And additional to that, we will be able to make real the investment on works caused by taxes, and we're going to deliver the 42 interactive rooms in the departments. It reports 17 million pesos of investment in equity, inclusion, and diversity. We will train these 200 women that already started in there, and we have a goal to continue including more entrepreneurships and the influence areas in our support and strengthening line. And lastly, we will include 100% of human rights issues in the matrix. This is a sustainability matrix that is aligned with the messages and requests from the institutions that qualify sustainability topics like standard mentioned. And governance for this year is 100% of our employees trained in culture of risk management, and we will include two emerging risks that will be evaluated at long term, and that is important for the company to have preventive measures from the events that are coming in a global way. And we are studying trends on a worldwide level that to map our matrix risk and have mitigation plans. In this year, we hope to start the ethic and compliance program, and we will train all of our collaborators 100%. We are going to update the relationship matrix to have game rules with the stakeholders of the local government and national government, and then we will continue with the first steps programs in social responsibility together with Universidad Externado, and we are training companies from our supply chain to include in their strategy goals and actions the important topics related to the point of view of sustainability, and that will be what we can tell from the criteria. Okay, so it is important to mention that for if it is important, the pillar of sustainability, as you can see, all of the topic related to consolidate the sustainability route is an important capacity for 2023. What we want to say is that our strategic focus for the year 2023 and our roadmap would follow the same pillars in which we offer results this year. And we are, of course, focused to bring efficiency to the table, that we are going to seek and sustain on the base on the $29 million that we already have from the year 2022, and try to find an increment of $7 million, and then all the topics that are relevant given the situation of climate change that we have had. And we learned in the year 2022 that the management of emergency is a topic that we have to deal with in an organized, in a better way, to have less impact for the business. And I can say that this is our focus in the year 2022 in the transformation pillar. We will have an agenda that goes more, that goes further than hydrogen topics. And in here, we're going to talk about the biogas projects to be able to understand feasibility and the business model that is very important, and to be able to understand the feasibility of topics related to gas storage that are present here, and what this sector mean, and to go further with other pilots, with digitalization and analytics of the operation and the expansion pillar. We will work strongly in how to create demand and how to develop demand, and to ensure the connection of the national transportation service of new sources. So that's why we're going to work in projects related to mobility and the substitution of fuel with industries as part of all of these topics. And I think you can see on the screen all of the information, and these are the financial guidelines for the year 2023, where we feel comfortable with what we achieved in the year 2022, and our roadmap should be the same. And we can see many questions related to regulation topics facing 2023 in regards of the Colombian political situation, if we are including in our forecasts any type related to fees. And we can say, or we believe, that in our line related to regulations is the proper line, and we will continue on this line with the administrative acts that we received from CREC, and this in this moment 702175 that are present in here, and we will understand in that line that to understand what are those administrative acts and the comments we send to all of these topics. With this, we will thank you very much for being here, and we open the space for questions and answers. Thank you very much, Monica. I'm going to give the floor to Carolina Diaz from the IR team to read the questions. Thank you. We have many questions in the chat, So we're going to start with Cálidda. We have the question from Andres Duarte from Corfi Colombiana, which mentions, I would like to know the drivers for growth and expectations for growth for the year 2023, and also telling which other zones you consider have another important potential for transport and gas distribution apart from where it is located. Well, these are three leverages that we have for the growth in the year 2023 and further. And the first thing is the demand of the vehicle sector, light and public vehicles, mainly taxis, and what we can say the private and light people that use their vehicles for the regular activities, work, taking kids to school. That is a pool of 400,000 vehicles that we have identified, on which we have a potential to be able to be part with GNB. So with this, we have opportunity to talk about the vehicles in the long term. Um, Heavy load transportation. So that would be the first leverage. The second, we should continue building networks and therefore including new residential clients. And we can say about 200,000 clients for the year 2023. And we believe that this is a potential in general that was 600,000 customers to cover in following years. And we have another activity to develop our growth. And the third one, we have developed a business, a complementary business, little by little, to what is related to gas and distributor, which is financing. We offer loans to customers that we reach with gas, and we have an understanding on their payment behavior, something similar that is related to Bria with Romias in Colombia. That is a third way of growth, and we were able to place collocation $16 million in 2022, and the expectation from this is to grow $25 million in this year, and to continue growing in the future. So if we go back to the slide on guidelines that I presented before, our EBITDA for the year 2023 is thought about $215 million, not including the impact related at the beginning of the scope, that is the additional fund the government is going to give for the construction and expansion of networks outside, let's say, the Cálida obligation. So what we hope is to have an increment on EBITDA, and taking the extraordinary amounts from 2021, we expect a growth of 3 or 4%. And if you ask in this moment to we're facing 2023 on EBITDA, and so it's related to Lima and Callao, there is a potential in the south because we have Contugas, because we talk about development of a petrochemical industry. So we are talking about also to be able to reach the presence of a urea plant. And if we can have the situation, there is a potential that would be interesting for what is related to gas demand. Some other zones outside this potential in the south, we can say demand related to the residential demand and linked to something relevant and not that important because of not having an industry or a generation that could be leveraged in there. So if you ask me as a personal opinion, I could say that there is a potential in the south with which have gone to gas. Thank you, Mario. Next question comes from Bank of America, that the that the Council of
provisionalmente
State
ese
suspended
decreto de
this decree
reasunción de funciones
to re-get
de la CREC
correct
por parte de
functions
la Presidencia de la República. Por
from
tanto, para
the presidency of
nosotros,
the republic. So
la CREC está,
for us, the
para
Craig,
nosotros y para Colombia,
and
la
for
CREC
us
está
in Colombia,
volviendo a
Craig is
asumir las
coming back
funciones que
to
siempre ha
assume
tenido
the
y en
duties
nuestra
it has,
tarea
and it is our work
como operadores del
as
mercado,
operator
pues
in this
seguir
market to
trabajando con
continue
los
working
guidelines que siempre
with the
hemos tenido,
guidelines we already
de
had,
respetar las cosas que
to
están con la CREC
respect what
y
is
seguir
related
trabajando
to Craig
de esa
and
manera
be able
de forma
to
proactiva, tanto con la
continue
CREC
working with Craig
como con el gobierno nacional
in
y el
proactive
Ministerio
way
de
with the
Infraestructura.
government and the ministry and what is related to
Adelante,
us.
Beatriz, con la
So
segunda
please
parte.
go ahead
Bueno, en lo que
with the second
respecta
part,
a los
Beatriz.
supuestos que en
Regarding
este
the
momento se presentan en el guidance
suppositions that we
en
have in
relación
the
con el EBITDA,
guidance in the
es
Vita,
importante
it is
señalar
important to
que
understand
nosotros
that
estamos
we are
asumiendo un
assuming an
impacto
impact
del
that
cambio
on the
regulatorio
regulation change, and
fundamentalmente
mainly
tenemos
we
dos
have
escenarios.
two
Uno en el
scenarios. One
cual
of them
nos
in
aceptarían una
which
propuesta
we
que hemos hecho a
a
la CREC,
proposal
que es
we have
básicamente
sent to
mantener
Craig,
el
which is keeping
75% de la
75% of
remuneración de
the
los cargos de
payment
inversión
of
en dólares y
investment charges in
bajándolo
dollars,
en QUAC
lowering
al
them to
equivalente
Quack
por
and the equivalent
establecido en la
that it
regulación
is established in the regulation in
es decir,
dollars,
del
which means
10.94
1094
dólares, que nos da algo alrededor del
converted in dollars or transferred to
9.3%.
dollars, that is going to
Y
be
el 25%
9.4%, and the
restante de la
25%
remuneración de la
from the
inversión se mantendría en pesos.
investment profitability would be
Entonces,
kept
sí
in
estamos
pesos. So
asumiendo
we
un
are assuming
impacto
an impact
del cambio
from the
regulatorio. El
regulation
segundo
change.
escenario
The second
que
scenario
tenemos
that
en EBITDA
we
es
can have in
básicamente
Evita,
que
it's
entra la
that
precificación
we
a
have
partir
the
del mes de
peso
abril
from
para
April
los cargos
from
o la
for the
recuperación de la inversión, es
from
decir, que
payment
la
of
recuperación
investment,
de la
and
inversión
the payment
sería
investment
al
would be
10.94.
up to
Por otro lado,
1094.
tenemos
So
otro
we
impacto
have another
de los
impact
gastos que es
and expenses
fundamentalmente
that
derivado
is mainly
de un
the reason from
mantenimiento importante
an
que se va a
important
hacer
maintenance
al
that should
gasoducto,
be
que es
done to the
básicamente lo que se
gas
denomina la
pipes,
corrida
which
IL.
is the
Entonces,
ill
esos dos
run.
efectos,
So
tanto
those effects,
el impacto
the
de la
impact
entrada
on
de la regulación
the
como
start of the
el impacto
regulation
de este gasto
as the
extraordinario que se
extraordinary
hace
expense
para
produced
el
for the year
2023, esto produce una
2023
reducción en el EBITDA. Sin
shows a
embargo, como
reduction
lo ha
on the
señalado Mónica,
EBITDA.
nosotros hemos
So
venido trabajando
we
muy
worked, as
fuertemente
Monica
en
said,
tratar de
very strongly
mitigar
and
el
try to
impacto
mitigate the
y pues
impact, and
creemos que el
we believe
impacto
that
en
the
las
impact
utilidades
on
no va a ser
profits is
tan
not going to
fuerte
be that
durante el
strong
presente año
during
a
the
pesar
present year, despite
del cambio
the
regulatorio que se
regulation change that
genera.
is provided in the
Muchas
EBITDA.
gracias, Mónica y
Thank you,
Beatriz.
Monica and Beatriz.
La siguiente pregunta tenemos
Next
para
question
TGI
is
con
for
sede de
TGI,
Florencia
and it
Mayorga
comes
de
from
Medline
Florencia Mayorga
y
from
se
Medline,
refiere a
and
qué
it talks
porcentaje
about
de
that what
OPEX y CAPEX
percentage of
están
OPEX
liquidados en
and
dólares,
fixed expenses
dado que
are
si bien
given in
podemos ver la
dollars,
posición en
since you
dólares
can
de deuda,
reduce
quisiera
the
saber cuántos
dollar
están
in debt,
liquidados en los
how
costos.
many of them are linked to costs.
El porcentaje que en este
The
momento tenemos
percentage that
nosotros
we
en los
have in this
costos
moment
corresponde
in the costs that
fundamentalmente
are
a
part to
gastos, por ejemplo, de gastos
expenses,
de seguros
and
contratados en el exterior,
insurances
es
paid abroad.
básicamente del treinta y
It
siete
is
por ciento Estamos
37%,
trabajando en
and we
una
are working in
propuesta
a
para
proposal
garantizar
to
el
be able to
cumplimiento
guarantee
de esos gastos
coverage
en
of
dólares
those
durante el
expenses in
presente
dollars
año.
during the present year.
Gracias, Beatriz.
Thank you,
Tenemos otra
Beatrice. We have
pregunta para
another
TGI
question for TGI
relacionada y es de
related to it,
Santa
and
Loyola
it
de
is from
Crédito
Santa
Capital
Loyola from Credicor
y nos
Capital,
indica
and
sobre
she
el cambio
says
de moneda
about
provisional.
the
La
currency
resolución CREC que
exchange,
ha sido
the
enviada a
resolution
consulta
sent to
estaría
consultation
proponiendo reconocer
would
el
be
total de los
proposing to
costos de
recognize
cobertura.
total coverage costs.
Si quieres
La
voy
res-
yo, si quieres
Eh,
Dale, dale.
Beatriz, si quieres voy yo.
I'll do it, Beatriz.
Efectivamente,
Well, of
la
course,
respuesta es no. Hay
the
un
answer it would
costo
be
de
no.
cobertura
There is
que
a
el
coverage
gobierno a
cost that
través
the
de la CREC
government
está
through CREC
proponiendo cubrir
proposed to
y
cover,
es parte de
and
los
it is
comentarios que
part of the
nosotros
comments
estamos
that
haciendo al
we
respecto.
are making regarding to this.
Muchas gracias, Mónica.
Thank you so
Tenemos
much, Monica.
dos
We
preguntas
have
adicionales
two
para
additional
TGI. La
questions
primera es
for
de Andrés
TGI. The
Duarte.
first one is from
Nos
Andrés
Me
indica
encanta
Duarte.
que
que
todas las preguntas sean para TGI en esta
I
llamada.
really like these questions
nos
are
indica,
for
por
TGI in
favor,
this
detallen
call.
un poco la
So please
resolución
detail
CREC
about the
702 a nivel de impactos esperados.
702
Y
resolution from
Roberto
Craig
Paniagua de
related
Casa 11
to impacts
nos
related to
indica
from
riesgos
Roberto
regulatorios que ven
Paniagua.
en el horizonte con
What are
el
the
Plan
risks you
Nacional de
can see in the
Desarrollo
future with the
2023.
National Plan of Development
Pues si quieres yo
2023?
contesto la
I'll
segunda
answer
parte.
the
Nosotros
second
muy
part,
rápidamente
and
con el Plan
with
Nacional
the
de
National
Desarrollo,
Development
lo
Plan,
que tal vez es
what
importante que
it
tengamos
is
claro es que
important to
nuestra
consider
tarea
that our
ha
task
sido,
here
por el
has
contrario,
been, on the other
cómo
hand,
garantizar que
how
el
to
gas sea el
guarantee that
energético de la
gas
transición
would be the
y sea
energy on
realmente un
transition
sector
and will be
importante
an
para el mundo.
important
Y
stakeholder for the
esa es
future.
nuestra tarea.
And that
Entonces,
is
desde
our
ese lado,
important
creo
task. And from
que
that
los
side, I can
primeros,
say that
el primer
from
borrador
the
que es para el
first
Plan
draft that
Nacional de Desarrollo,
comes from the National
hay
Development Plan,
mucha alineación en
there's
estos temas
an
y es nuestro
lining
trabajo seguir
with that
fortaleciendo
with
este
those
punto
topics, and
en
it's our work
beneficio
to strengthen
no
this topic in
solamente
benefit
del
not
negocio
only
del
from
país, sino en
the
beneficio
TGI
también del
business, but
país
also
y de
for
todos
the
los
benefit of
actores
our
que están
country and the
trabajando en este
stakeholders that
segmento
are working in this
energético que es tan
energy
relevante para la
segment that is
transición.
important for the
Creo que de
transition.
ese lado
So
no
from
estamos
that part,
visualizando
we
un
are
riesgo
not
para el
visualizing a
país.
latent risk
Y
for
desde el
our
segundo lado,
business.
la
And on the other
702,
side,
no sé si
702,
quieren
I
Alfredo
don't
que
know if
está en línea
Alfredo that
pueda
is in there
contestar o
to
Guillermo,
answer it,
cualquiera de los
or
dos.
Guillermo, maybe.
Están en mute. No, no te oímos, Moisés Guillermo. No sé si está Luis
Moisés or Guillermo,
Alfredo o
can
si
you
no,
hear us?
Laura
Or
puede
maybe
contestar.
Laura, you can answer that.
Listo, Mónica, pues desde
Okay,
la 702
from the
tenemos una
702, as you
este,
can
ha
say,
sido un gran
it has
avance
been a
y
very
destacándonos
important
avances respecto a la
improvement
resolución inicial
related to the initial
175. La
resolution
702 está
175. The
enfocada
702 is focused
en
on
dos
two
líneas, la
lines.
vida útil normativa,
uh,
donde traemos
uh,
avances donde ya no se nos están haciendo un disparador en cumplimiento de
Regulation
los
life
activos, sino que podemos
that
incluso
we are
recuperar los
recognizing the
activos
cost
y como
opportunity of
Mónica
assets, and as
expresó en
Monica
una
expressed
respuesta
in a
anterior
previous response
respecto al punto de coverage de
regarding
las
the
residencias,
coverage
pues
point
Mónica también
702, it's also
reconociéndole a
acknowledging
TGI
the TGI
alguna
some
proporción de
kind of
descuento.
proportion on the
Consideramos que
coverage.
es un gran
So we
avance
think that is an
resultado
important
del trabajo
improvement as a
desempeñado
result
por
of
parte
all the
del
work in
Gobierno
regulations
Nacional
within
y seguimos
national
avanzando
government, and
muy
we
voluntarios para
continue
lograr que la
making
resolución
comments
que
for the
presentemos
resolution
se
that
vea
will be
íntegra y
the
regular
last resolution according to
en
the
el semestre
regulator in this first
tenga
semester
mejoras respecto a
will
la
have improvements related to
publicada
the
en
one
febrero.
published in February.
Muchas gracias,
Thank you
Mónica y
so
Laura.
much, Monica and
Al
Laura.
respecto de la siguiente
Regarding
pregunta
the
también para
next question
TGI,
for TGI,
viene de
it
Ana
comes
María
from Ana
Huasca
Maria
de Corredores
Huasca
da
from
Vivienda y está
Corredores da
relacionada
Vivienda, and
con
it
una
is
pregunta
related
que
to
nos envía
a
Andrés Duarte
question
de Corfi
from
Colombiana,
Andres
en
Duarte,
la cual nos indica
Coffee
en qué
Colombiana,
está enfocado el plan de
and
inversiones
what
para
is the
2023 y
investment
cuáles
plan
son sus
focus for this
expectativas
year,
de crecimiento
2023,
para el
and the
2023.
growth expectations from the same year, for the
Beatriz.
same year? Well, Beatriz, please go ahead.
Fundamentalmente,
Mainly,
las inversiones
the
están
investments
previstas dentro del plan
provided within
de
the
inversiones
investment
que
plan
implican
imply
inversiones
investments
en la aceptación de los proyectos de
accepting
impacto, que
impact
son básicamente los
projects that
proyectos de
are
expansión
the
que tienen
expansion projects
ejecutados la CREC
um, considered by
para
CREC
Mariquita,
for
Gualanda y para el
Mariquita,
ramal
Gualanday, and El
Jamundí,
Ramal
así como
Jamundi,
la
as well
bidireccionalidad
as the
Ballena
bidirectionality
Barranca.
to
Y por
Ballena
otro lado,
Barranca,
un
and
proyecto en el que
project
se ha
in
venido
which
trabajando, que es
we have
básicamente de
worked for,
micro
which
LNG
is micro LNG,
distribuido
which is
en el
distributed
país.
in the
Esos
country.
son los proyectos.
Those are
Y por otro lado,
and
hemos
on the
enfocado
other
en los
hand, we consider
mantenimientos
some other
mayores, que se
maintenance that
hacen
are
a
higher,
la
that are
infraestructura de
performed
TGI.
on TGI structure.
Muchas gracias, Beatriz.
Thank you so much, Beatriz.
Ahora tenemos una
Now
inquietud
we
de
have a
Roberto
question
Paniagua, Casa de Bolsa,
from Roberto
que nos
Paniagua,
indica,
Casa de
por
Bolsa,
favor,
and
recordar el
please
manejo que se daría a los
remember the
vencimientos de deuda
management on
2023 de
um, debt
270
expiration
millones de dólares.
2023, $270 million.
Es
En ese,
370, perdón.
Sorry, $370,
en
yes.
ese tema de los
Related
370
to
millones, como
those
mencioné,
370 million, as I
corresponden al
mentioned, it correspond to
vencimiento
the
que se
expiration
presenta con el
that
grupo
took place
y
with the group,
nosotros
and
estamos
we are
haciendo todas las
making
gestiones con el
all of
fin
the management, we're
de
taking care of it
obtener en
to
el
obtain
mercado
in the
esos
market all of
recursos
those
en
resources
mediano plazo,
at a,
es
at a
decir,
midterm.
adquirir
It means
fundamentalmente la
bringing
estrategia de
the
someterlos a
strategy to
través del
obtain them
mercado de
from
pesos
the
sintéticos. Y
synthetic
eso es lo que estamos trabajando en aras de
pesos
obtener
in to
la
obtain
autorización del
the
Ministerio de
authorization from
Hacienda y
the
Crédito Público
Ministry
alrededor
of
del mes de
Taxing,
septiembre
and
con el fin
no,
de
in
hacer
September, to
esa
be able
obtención de
to
los
obtain
recursos
the
en el
resources
mercado,
in the
tanto de
market
bancos
from banks
o
and
mediante un private
through
placement.
private placement.
Muchas gracias, Beatriz. Ahora
Thank
nos
you,
vamos
Beatriz. And
con
now
Mario Caballero
we have
de
Mario
Cálida.
Caballero from
Tenemos
Cálida.
una pregunta
We
de
have
Roberto
a
Paniagua,
question
Casa
from
de
Roberto
Bolsa.
Panagua, Casa de
La
Bolsa.
primera es, ¿cuántos
And the first
vehículos
one would be
esperan
how many
obtener a
vehicles
gas
you
en el
expect to
2023
obtain
y cuándo se
to have
normalizaría la
gas
conversión de
option, and how
vehículos a gas
it would
natural
be
con
the
crecimiento más
regulation would be
estable?
normalized with stable growth. Well, we are considering 50,000 vehicles converted this year And in our projections, we have closed 250 million 2022, and we think that we're going to pass to this year 420,000 vehicles in 2026. So we expect current growth at levels that would be lower, let's say. Was there another
Sí, hay
question?
otra pregunta también de Roberto
Yes, from
Paniagua.
Roberto
Nos
Paniagua.
explica, por favor,
And
recordar
it
el plan
says,
de
please
financiamiento
remember
de los
the
400
financial plan,
millones de dólares que
$400
mencionó
million
en el
dollars to
preset.
be expanded in 2023. We closed the year 2021 with an information of 8 banks with $320 million. In fact, $350 million. In fact, we used 30 on the 2022, and we're going to do it for the 322 for at the end of this year, and the bond should be paid, let's say, in April. And with that, the payment would be considered to pay the debt. And there's another loan for BBVA, and there is going to be managed with Scotiabank with 300 million from there that was closed in 2021, in which we paid 100, and we're going to use for the other 100 million. The international bond has 438 bond, so we closed the debt with 320 million and 3.5%. So it was, let's say, financially, it was a transaction that was very successful, and for that reason, we are going to ensure an increase on rates that not only we are going to have an impact on important rates, but we are going to be able to reduce the average rate with
Gracias,
this
María.
transaction in the
También para
company.
ti dice
Another
de Roberto
question from
Paniagua,
you,
dice,
from
¿cómo
Roberto
espera
Paniagua. How do you
repercutir a
expect to
mediano plazo
fix
los
on a
efectos de
short
ingresos
term the
con la
income
normalización de las conexiones?
segments with the normalization of connections? So what we have in here is two important leverages, which is the vehicle segment, which we have a lot to do developing the demand in this segment, and in our strategy through the short term is one of the pillars that we can have for compensation as well. For the residential part, we have an important space to grow. Uh, 5,000 kilometers to cover and 20,000 connections. And we have a work that we already started to make in detail to promote the second points. And nowadays, 22% of the connections in Cálidda has second points. So we believe that we can improve the market to take it to 40%. And probably one of the most interesting sectors to compensate the connections fall and is the project that we can talk about financing, not banking financing, and placing 16 millions in the year 2022, and we are hoping to take it to 25 million in the 2023. But this is path that is going to continue to the future and compensate this fall down that is going to take place with less connections in the future, because we are almost reaching a maturity point in all that is the network.
Muchas gracias, Mario.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Tenemos dos
We have
preguntas
two
de
questions
Andrés
from
Duarte
Andres
de
Duarte
Corfi
from
Colombiana para
Corfi
TGI. La
Colombiana for
primera
TGI.
es proyección de las
First one is the
parejas
projection
variable y
of
capacidad
variable
para el cierre
and
del
capacity
2023.
for the
Y la
closure
segunda es,
2023, and
¿tienen algún
the second
piloto
one would
en
be
curso
one
relacionado con
pilot
hidrógeno?
that is ongoing related to hydrogen.
Pues si quieres, pareja de cargos, ahí salió Word, por
So,
favor, a ver que nos
Eleodoro,
ayude a
can you
salir.
help us please with that?
Pues se mantienen las proporciones que
We keep the
se
proportions
han venido utilizando,
that we
solo
used
que
so far.
se
However,
modifican de acuerdo a los
they are
escenarios que
modified according
habían
to
visto.
the
Hay una modificación en valor dependiendo del
indicators Beatrice
escenario que se
shown, and
seleccione.
depending on the
Si
scenario
se da el de
selected, the
75%
70%
dólares,
is given in dollars,
25% pesos,
25% in pesos,
o la
or
especificación total.
the total specification.
Realmente los
And
parejos
actually,
no
the
sufren
peers
una
would
variación
not
significativa
have
dado
an
que
important
pues, los
change,
contratos
given
que
that
tenemos
the
para
contracts that we have
2023
for
son distintos del
2023
año
were
pasado o en años
um,
anteriores.
established on the
Pues
past year and
viendo
previous
con
years,
parejas de
and they
economistas
got with
serios de la
peers and
mayoría y algunos por 80-20, nos
with
arroja
80
un
20,
promedio
so it
entre
gave
un
us an average of
90-10
90
que
10
se mantiene para el
that is kept for
2023.
the year 2023.
Gracias, Eleodoro.
Thank you very much,
Santiago, por
Eleodoro and
favor,
Santiago.
entramos con la respuesta
Let's
de
start
hidrógeno.
with the
Creo que
nitrogen
sí, muchas gracias.
hydrogen
En
response.
hidrógeno tenemos
In hydrogen, we
dos
have
hojas de ruta.
two
La primera es hidrógeno
roads.
distribuido, donde
The one is
producimos y usamos
distributed
hidrógeno a partir
hydrogen
del agua
that we
para
use for a low
multiplicación.
case for
Ahí
specific
estamos ya en
applications. And in
multiplicación
here we have
tecnología japonesa que fabrica vehículos
a
originales.
project with an
Quien estamos en
Japanese
este
NGO
momento usando
that
hidrógeno para
is
descarbonizar,
working to
reducir emisiones,
decarbonize, reduce
optimizar
emissions,
sus
and
equipos
optimize the
actuales
current
con los cuales
equipment
tienen en este
with
momento
which in
rodando
this
y los que
moment
vendrán en los próximos años. De esa misma manera esperamos escalar eso
they are
mediante la
working,
producción
and
de
we hope
hidrógeno
to
distribuido
move
para
forward to the
optimizar ese
future
tipo de
and to
aplicaciones. También
have this type of
estamos
applications.
terminando este mes
We
con
are
unos
also working in this month with a
global
global leader
proyectos
in
de
projects
hidrógeno, investigación de
related
proyectos de
to
hidrógeno,
hydrogen
donde estamos
projects, in
identificando
which
tres
we identify
proyectos
three
grandes,
important
importantes en
projects that
Colombia para
are for
hidrógeno
the country
centralizado en
for
100.000
centralized hydrogen
cantidades.
in lower
Y en ese
amounts.
orden de
And
ideas,
his
aquí
idea
volvemos
is to
finalmente
activate
esos pilotos
the
en esa
different
dirección,
pilots in
precisamente
that
de la hoja de ruta de
um,
hidrógeno.
direction.
Buscamos
So
que esos proyectos
we
de
try
hidrógeno
to seek
no
for
dependan de
these hydrogen
subsidios para ser
hydrogen projects
exitosos y
would
cerrar
not depend from any
financieramente, sino que
subsidies
sea
to
una buena
close
idea que
successfully,
tenga sentido
but to
desde lo
be a good
técnico, lo
idea and have
económico
a
y lo
sense from the
financiero
technical,
por sus
financial, and
impactos en
economic way
descarbonización de
for their
industrias,
impacts in
aplicaciones de
decarbonization of
hidrógeno,
industries and application of
aprovechando los
hydrogen,
recursos que tiene
taking
Colombia.
or considering
Gracias.
the resource in Colombia. Thank you.
Muchas gracias por las respuestas. Tenemos
Thank you very much for
otra
the
pregunta
responses. We
adicional de
have
nuestra
another
profesora de Pine Bridge.
um, from another
Parte
question
aquí
from
dice qué
I could see
supuestos de
from that
IPC
supposes from
y tasa de cambio están
and
utilizando para
IPC
el
main
escenario
exchange rate
actual
you are using
del
for
finiquito de
the
Cálidda.
scenario to increase the fee.
Beatriz, adelante.
Go ahead, Beatriz.
En el componente
In the
de
components related
indexación
to
de
indexation of
IPP, que es el
IPP,
que
which is the
aplicaría
one that would
para
apply
el
for
escenario pesos,
the
estamos
peso scenario, we are
utilizando
using
19%
19%,
y la tasa de
and the
cambio
exchange rate,
promedio que
an
estamos
average exchange
utilizando
rate we are using in there,
es alrededor
it's
de
about
4.600
4,600 pesos
para el presente año,
for this
si
year, and
mal no
if
recuerdo.
I don't, if I'm okay.
Muchas gracias, Beatriz.
Thank you so much.
Veo una última pregunta
One last
para
question I can
TGI,
see for TGI,
y es la
and it
siguiente.
is the
Quiero
following.
ver un poco más
I would
cuál
like to be
es el
part of
EBITDA
a
que
focus,
asume la
which
petrificación
is the
pasando
EBITDA that assumes the
básicamente el EBITDA de
pesos, and it is
298 millones de dólares.
$298
¿Cómo se
million
hace parte
would
de la remuneración?
receive what part
¿Que
of
se da
the
en dólares?
remuneration or the payment.
Fundamentalmente,
Mainly the EBITDA from of 298 assumes the peso from April, and as I mentioned it with the IPP, when the indexation for the present year, it's 19%.
Perfecto, ya con esto
Perfect.
acabamos la
With
sección
this,
de
we will
preguntas, no vemos más
finish
preguntas en
the
el chat.
Q&A session.
Igualmente, si
We
hay
don't see
alguna
any
que se
other
haya
quick
quedado por
Q&A
fuera,
question.
la estaremos
We don't see
resolviendo
any
a través
question,
de
and if there is
relaciones de
any other
preguntas.
question that
Muchas
we
gracias a
missed,
todos los
send the
participantes.
information to the email. So thank you very much for all the participants.